death. I'm so excited to have her on the show this morning. Her name is Sandra Champlain. Sandra, welcome to our show.
Oh, Bo, thank you. Good morning. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. Now, I had the opportunity to really take a thorough look at your book, and I just relate so much to some of the things that you write in it, especially that you're a Catholic girl. You were raised a Catholic girl. I know a lot of us relate to that, at least that religious aspect of it. But tell us why and what is your background that brought you to write this book, We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death? How did that happen for you?
Well, it's so interesting because I always laugh sharing this. My day job, I'm a chef. I'm a chef for race car teams, traveling the country,
Wow.
cooking. Okay, that's one of my businesses. I also own a coffee and chocolate store in Connecticut, very small mom and pop thing. And so for me to be writing this book was not predictable. But I am a human being who looked up at the stars one day and was going through just some really tough times in my life. And all of a sudden, this overwhelming fear of who am I? What's my life for? What happens after I die? I mean, this huge fear came over me. And I had lost some pets, and my grandfather had passed, and my dad had been diagnosed with cancer years back. But it was just like I couldn't handle the unknown.
Right.
And very, very privately, I went on a search for what lies beyond. Is there any proof besides religion talks about faith? And there's a ton of common ground that all religions share about life after death, but did anybody really have the proof? And my subtitle is A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death because, Bo, I used to be one of those people that would laugh if anybody went to get their cards done, went to an astrologer, believed in any New Age stuff. I would laugh. I would think that's all a gimmick and a scam out to con people out of their money.
Even though you have a Catholic background, which of course is really on heaven, so
Right.
so you were still a skeptic then, even as that training, that upbringing.
Absolutely, because
Okay.
it was faith, and there was nothing more than faith, and that sounded good. And theoretically, it should have been enough, but inside it wasn't.
Right.
Going
Okay.
to bed at night, afraid to go to bed, like, well, what could happen? Even though I wasn't sick and there was
Right.
no problem.
And a lot of
Fear
us,
was
you know, I mean, that's sort of the human condition, isn't it, to be afraid of death and wonder what's next.
It is mankind's top fear. It's not public speaking, as they say. It is dying.
It's dying. Okay, so can we jump ahead? So you discovered that about yourself, and then what did you do? Did you start searching for this, or you got involved with a group, right, called Landmark, and that sort of started opening your mind up? Is that correct?
Yes. How it all started is the first evidence I went looking for was through church and religion, and I studied the top major world religions, and again, just found faith. And so at that point, I said, I'm never going to find what I'm looking for because it does not exist. And so I thought, well, Sandra, if you can be the best person you can be, you should have nothing to worry about. And I got busy with my job, cooking, traveling, and so I really kind of put it, outside of my head as much as I could. And every time it came up, I just pushed to the back burner. And then I did this 3-day course called the Landmark Forum that happens worldwide. And it's simply a course on being human. And I had met a guy in London and seen him a couple years later, and he had transformed his life. He had lost weight. He quit smoking. He started several businesses. He was making tons of money. And I thought, what happened to you? And he said, you got to do this course. So the Landmark Forum is just a 3-day course about being human, why the same things keep happening to us over and over and over in a lifetime. And unfortunately, Bo, the bottom line denominator is it's us and our views of ourselves, and how to let go of that and really choose a powerful future.
All right.
It has nothing to do with spirituality.
Yes, it's the choice we make, and we're going to be talking about
Right.
the voice here in just a second, the voice that's in our head, how to recognize it, and how to make it shut up. or at least change what it's saying. But
Right.
I'm already getting the feeling from you, and this is a question that just occurred to me. I already can tell this far in our conversation that you are a successful person already. You're an entrepreneur. You have a couple of companies. Now you're writing this book. So where does that all come from? The
The
success,
entrepreneur part?
the success that you have and the kind of person driven, did it start with this landmark thing?
It started in Landmark. They talk about, and they don't tell you any of this is the truth. It's just try on while you're here for the weekend, that when you're a child and everything's going well in your life, and then there are these things that happen that we start making decisions about ourselves. And those decisions we believe are true, and we carry them forward through the rest of our life. So when I was sitting in that room, the earliest memory I can remember is being lost at Disneyland when I was 4 or 5 years old. Now, my parents didn't lose my siblings. Me,
Right.
Was lost. And so in Landmark, they said, well, what kind of a decision could a kid have made? And I can still remember that fear, Bo, like maybe not yesterday, but it's really still alive for me. But I went on in my life very independent, very I don't need you. And again, in Landmark, they say that maybe this kid made the decision, I'm not good enough, or I'm not special, or I'm not lovable, because why would mom and dad lose me if they really loved me? And not that that's the truth, but looking at it that way, it is very possible I came up with this I'll show you attitude. I'm the middle child. I was destined to be the one that would never leave the house. Well, I'm the first to leave the house. I was the first to get a car. I started my own business. And so why it's important to look at, and again, who knows if it's true or not, but it's not been a satisfying journey as an entrepreneur because it was never enough. I was never good enough. I never felt lovable.
Right.
And so by doing that weekend course, it was just like, oh, you mean, like I can still be successful and that's fine, but I can also realize like I am lovable and
because
like,
that's
I
what
have a
everybody
lot to give.
That's what
It
everybody's searching for. I mean, we want education. We think we want a nice house. We think that, and we do, we want money, but really what we all long for is to be loved.
Right.
No matter,
And
and that's why you hear so often about extremely successful people, driven people who still, die not feeling loved. And that was always a heartache for them. Citizen Kane comes to mind.
I know, Rosebud.
Yeah. I mean, that's what you're talking about is a reality for all of us. It is a human experience. We want to be loved.
Yeah, and we don't realize that, it's interesting because we can talk about the voice in our head that convinces us that we're not lovable. But if we were to ask all the people around us what they see in us that are our good points, they would flood us with, oh, you're so lovable, you're so funny, you're so kind, you're so generous, but the person inside doesn't feel that. Now, why is it if you interview 30 people, they all have that same story, and we have a different story, being unlovable? Well, who's right? Well, I'm out to tell people that those 30 people are right, and it's that little voice inside of our head that's wrong. And unfortunately, we can be our own worst enemy, but therein lies the real message that I'm trying to get through is we can't always listen to ourselves because, the information's not that empowering.
Well, how do we change it? Because what we're doing, we're always talking to ourselves all day long.
Right.
That's what we're doing. We're speaking to other people, and we're consciously, walking down the hallway, getting the coffee, but we're constantly in our heads going, oh, well, that wasn't very smart what you said. Oh, Nina, go ahead, spell it like, we're constantly talking to ourselves inside. That's just a fact.
It's brutal how much we're talking to ourselves, and most of it is negative.
Yes.
We could be out trying to lose weight, and that little voice says, oh, you can just have one piece of cake, and then it ends up being 3, and then, oh, you're terrible, you're a slob, oh, it's awful.
So what do we do?
To recognize.
How do we change it? Yeah, recognize it. Yeah.
Voice. Most people don't know that we have it, okay? And that's our voice. It's cynical and skeptic and all that. The second thing to do to quiet it is, there's a couple things. One, getting into the present moment. If you're driving in your car right now and you're listening to the radio and your hands are on the steering wheel, if you can be 100% present with the conversation or music that you're listening to, and you really have to stop the voice. You have to, it's like bubbles rising up to the surface of an ocean. They're going to keep surfacing, but you don't have to pay any attention to them. Another thing to do is to substitute with a more positive voice. I give people the exercise inside We Don't Die to try every morning. getting a piece of paper, writing down the successes that you've had in your life. You can only spend 5 minutes or 3 minutes is fine. And then what are your best qualities that people would tell you if you ask them? And when you wake up in the morning, the voice wants to go right away to, I need to sleep in, I'm going to press the snooze button, I don't want to have this go to work, whatever it may be. But all of a sudden, to remember who you really are, well, suddenly that voice goes in the passenger seat. Who now really in charge is yourself. And I call it inside We Don't Die, your soul self. And this is the wise you. And here's one very interesting thing. People that have had the best, most successful inventions and artists that have painted beautiful paintings and musicians who have created the most beautiful music say where they got it was when they quieted their mind. And in that space, all of a sudden, this idea came forward. So it is, people call it meditation. Even a few seconds is healing, Bo. But to either substitute for positive thought, think about what you're grateful for. This really ticks off the voice. But if you were to sit down with a pad of paper and write 50 things you're grateful for and really feel that gratitude as you write, that's going to take your lousy mood and put it into a great mood.
All right. We're going to take a break. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about, since we're in the holidays right now, how to help people with that. And so we have to break to hear some of our sponsors, and we'll be right back with Sandra Champlain. Her book, We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. Sandra Champlain is with us. We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. And we're talking to her right now about the voice that is constantly running in our head, how to ignore it. Sandra, what do we do? How do we get the voice to say good things to us instead of bad? Is that what we should do? Should we tell it to shut up, or should we tell it to change what it's saying?
Here's the thing. We're human. We can't escape having it. So it's just knowing how to deal with it. So literally from quieting the mind, trying to get into the present moment, trying to get busy on something productive, something that you really love doing. You often hear of athletes or artists getting in the zone.
Right.
That zone means voice-free. That means you're so caught up in the moment that the voice is somewhere else, or literally giving gratitude for things and making yourself do some things. Even, gosh, if you're alone and you want to put your music on loud and dance around your house, it's really hard to be sitting in negative self-talk when you're dancing around and feeling good. So feeling good is definitely something that can help combat that voice.
Okay, so Sandra, you studied the religions of the world, and you came to some conclusions after having done that, and you list a lot of their afterlife beliefs in your book, not just Christian, but other world religions. And you do say now that you do believe in God, right?
Yes.
Okay, so could I ask you a personal question? Like, do you pray? And when you calm your voice down, do you pray, and do you get answers from that?
Well, it's funny because one would like to think because I wrote the book that I'm perfect and I have it all together.
You have a direct line?
No. What I have is a toolbox of tools, and then when I remember to use them, they're very, very empowering. So me, like the listener, has to use them. But I do pray, and you know what? I wish I could say that I prayed and gave gratitude every day, and like what a powerful way would that be. But I seem to be one of those times when I pray for what I need or what someone else in my life needs, or, for good health or something like that. I don't feel I am as religious or spiritual as I should be, and that's, for my journey as a human, something else to step into.
Well, that's very honest. All right.
Well, I'm human.
Yeah, no kidding. We all are. Okay, so your book, We Don't Die. So you must believe definitely there's an afterlife. And that's
no question.
No question.
None.
Okay, you have no question.
I'll see my dad again. I'll see my cat Billy again.
And what gives you personal knowledge of that? Because you don't even claim that you've had a near-death experience, right? You're not one of those.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So is it just from inner? Okay, go ahead.
Well, in fact, We Don't Die is one of the few books out. And in fact, I'm saying few books because I haven't seen one like it. There might be. I give that the benefit of the doubt. But what I wanted to do was go on my own journey and not just have one, like I'm not just looking at near-death experiences. Some people say near-death experiences, there's hundreds of thousands, and people float above their body, and absolutely that means there's life after death. Well, to be honest with you, Bo, that wasn't good enough for me to just know that, because my skeptical mind said, hey, probably when the brain shuts down, we see the bright light, and that happens.
Right.
But what I did, like near-death experiences is one of many different things that I researched beyond what the normal person does to prove that it is real. And Dr. Raymond Moody was the doctor that coined the phrase near-death experience back in the 70s. There's a doctor named Kenneth Ring who took his experiments one step further and only studied the near-death experiences of blind people who have never seen in their life. And when they had those moments of dying and, flatlining on an operating table and rising above their body, for the first time they actually had sight, and they could actually see not only what was happening, they could see things in color, they could tell things in detail. For instance, one woman who flatlined at an operating table could see her husband having a conversation with the doctor. The husband was wearing his green shirt. The doctor dropped his pen. The husband bent over and picked it up and gave some other very interesting information about what she saw. Now, this woman's never had sight. And when you talk about, several dozen people having this experience, that's just one of the things that opened me up to there's something else going on here.
Have you had in your life a personal experience where you felt God or some super being that you could say for sure that you know? Or is it from strictly research?
One of the things that happened to me is I went out to prove one way or the other that mediums are either a hoax or the real deal. And I had an opportunity to study personally with one of the world's most famous mediums. Her name is Doreen Virtue.
Right.
I flew very secretly out to Laguna Beach to spend a weekend with her. Now, remember, everybody in my life knows I'm a skeptic, that I don't believe in this. So I lied to my family when I went out to study with her. And so she said, if you're in this class, I will teach you. You can accurately tell the deceased people around others. And Bo, I'm thinking there is no way that's possible. But the girl who is afraid of dying, I had to know. I had to sit it out over the weekend. And the first thing she did is she said, I want to just explain how medium readings are done. We're not really going to do it. But if we were, this is what we would do. She says, everybody grab a partner. Sit knee to knee, just in your chairs. Hold hands. One of you go first. I'm like, I can go first. She says, we're not doing anything here. Just rest your mind. This is how we will do it when we start. She says, I want you to imagine that there's like a gold light of energy that's connecting you heart to heart. She says, I want you to feel that it's a safe space. Close your eyes, and I want you to just imagine you're kind of in this bubble of healing energy. It's all safe. And invite in if your partner has a deceased loved one that wants to come through. And she kept repeating, just be creative because we're not really doing it. I want you to make up somebody sitting or standing behind your partner. So that's easy for me to do. I'm a chef. I'm creative. I can do that. So I started telling my partner the story of who I saw standing behind her. And Bo, I invented a man. His name was Jan. He was a fisherman in Denmark. He had a big gap between his front teeth, very windburned skin, blue eyes, blonde hair. I got the feeling he died of lung cancer. This is just this guy that I'm creating.
Right.
And that he wanted me to give my partner the message that tell your mom I love you, that he had never been able to say those 3 words while he was alive to his own daughter. So I opened my eyes like, okay, it's your turn to go, right, to my partner. And there are just tears streaming down her cheeks. Her grandfather's name was Jan. He was a fisherman in Denmark. He died of lung cancer, fit the description, and he had never told his own daughter, I love you, while he was alive.
Her mother.
Yeah. And for that to come out of my head when it looked identical to my imagination was the very first thing that opened the door to say, hey, there is something going on here. Because number one, if mediums are real, fine. But it's certainly not going to come out of Sandra Champlain's head. And it did.
So
So
is she,
I had
yeah.
a weekend of doing that.
She must be pretty interesting. I've never met or interviewed Doreen, but I'm very familiar
Yeah,
with her work. Was that
she's great.
interesting being with her?
Oh, it was great. I've done 3 courses with her after that, and she's fun and she's down to earth and just loving. And yeah.
Okay, so we're going into the holidays, and you have some insight on, a lot of people are sad right now. As a matter of fact, I was just driving to work this morning, thinking that my little voice was just going to town, all the things that I have to do this holiday season, as we all are. Now I got to go buy and then the plane ticket, and then I'm looking.
It never
It
stops.
never stops, and oh, did I put the socks on? Did I remember my water? And then looking around downtown Seattle, I mean, we have a lot of people that aren't doing too well right now in our environment. So a lot of people, this is not this is the happiest time of the year, says our Christmas songs, but for a lot of people, it's not.
It's
So
the saddest time of the year. We want to fast forward it. We don't want to open our eyes. We're driving around. Everybody's got those darn Christmas lights on. They started playing Christmas carols. It wasn't even Halloween yet,
yeah, right.
And we hear one of those carols, and it can ignite. Gosh, here's another thing about how our minds work. We're so filled with memories, and all it takes is a smell of a cinnamon roll or the sound of a Christmas carol, and it can ignite really great memories. And then all of a sudden you realize that person is deceased, or that you're not close to a family member anymore, and all of a sudden this huge wave of sadness comes in, and it's brutal. I mean, it's brutal. And so what would it be like this holiday season really to feel that your loved one is not gone? If you were sitting around your table at New Year's, or your holiday table, Christmas time, or whichever, Hanukkah, and you believe that person is there. I mean, you don't have to go as far as setting a table space for them, but many people do, and they celebrate it with them because they're invisible. They're not gone. And I just want to give your listeners a website. I have the website wedon'tdie.com.
Okay.
And on it, my whole book's not on there, but you can read certainly several chapters. But how to deal with grief, how to deal with loss of a loved one. All my findings with the near-death experience. There's something called remote viewing, which I teach people how to do this ESP technique that is so mind-blowing that you realize I can't just be this body. If I'm able to see pictures in a magazine before I open the magazine, I give people tools to quiet the mind. Even around this holiday time, you brought up something great, is you see all these less fortunate people around. The voice can't be stewing about what you don't have when you're out to make a difference for another person. You can't be making a difference and helping another and thinking about your own losses at the same time. It's just not possible. Just like you can't be afraid and also be grateful right at that same moment. So it takes something. But from setting a place setting to your deceased loved one, including them, and you may have to convince that skeptical mind, like, what if? What if they are really here?
And you're thinking
celebrate
they
that.
are. You're thinking they are.
Yeah, you want to know where I think heaven is?
You think
This
it's
is a good
here?
one. I think it's here. I think right around you, right around me, there are invisible radio waves. There's wireless internet. There's GPS signals. There's television signals. There's sound waves. There is a world happening that is invisible to our eyes, but it's very real, and it's all made up of energy. And science has proven that even if we're looking at our own hands, we are made up of energy. If you put a camera inside one of our atoms, the camera wouldn't pick up anything except for there's only vibrating energy. There's no stuff, and that is pretty miraculous as it is. And when we pass away, I think just like a log burning changes from the log into heat, or water changes from a puddle on the ground and just evaporates, I think when we die, our energy, our spirit just changes form. And I think the only way mediums are able to tap into these people as if they're right here is because they are right here. And we are just tapping into that invisible energy realm that is happening around us.
All right. Love the message. Sandra Champlain, We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. Her website, wedon'tdie.com. And her books are available everywhere, bookstores, online, Amazon. Sandra, I know that you're headed to the top of the bestseller list, and we wish you luck and happy holidays to you.
Thank you, and thank you for all you do to make a difference, Bo. Happy holidays.
If you'd like to share something good